Well, Chief LaForme, and it's always very nice to have you here at City Hall. He was here just a few weeks ago celebrating another big event that's going to happen in our city this year, which is the Indigenous Games with athletes from across North America coming here. And of course, he's here today to celebrate this great occasion that's coming our way. Chief Labarge, I can't stop calling you that because for so many years we attended so many different events together. I actually quite liked you until you had to raise that 50th anniversary of the Stanley Cup, which is not really, it's sort of a happy memory, but not really a happy anniversary. But having said all that, we'll fix that. My colleague, Joe Mihevc, distinguished representatives of the World Parliament of Religions, and ladies and gentlemen, one and all. I'm very happy to be there. I should start off, by the way, saying, Chief, I had an old tip. I mean, when the front rows, when I used to do town hall meetings when I was CEO at Rogers, the front rows were empty because this is just human nature. Nobody wants to be too close to the front, and you start thinking it's personal. But I solved that problem by simply giving a free movie coupon, which I could do in those days. I'd get in trouble if I started doing that now to people who sat in the front rows and they were suddenly full all the time. So you could just take that as a tip. What a great announcement this is today. It is something that is so fitting to be held in the city of Toronto. And I say that not in a presumptuous way, but I just say it because I think we, as I travel internationally representing Toronto, what I find is that people have an inkling. It's not more than an inkling, but they have an inkling because they know somebody who lives here, they've had a relative who's gone to school here, they have some connection to Toronto, and they don't know much about the city, but what they know is that we have found a way to live together here that is unique in their minds. And I think it is. I always make sure to say that does not mean we've achieved perfection, because we have a lack of inclusion in a number of different respects that we have to continue to address. But if you want to look at a place where, arguably, backed up by no less an authority than the BBC, it is the most diverse city in the world, and that you have here people of all different nationalities, all different faiths, and that they get along here. They celebrate their differences. They know it's one all for one and one for all. And I think that is something that is admirable. I'm not sure why it's happened. I think it's a matter of Canadian values. It's a matter of will to some extent, but I think it makes it a very appropriate place for this great gathering to take place in our city next year. I'm still amazed at the degree to which people know so little about each other. I stood up right out on that square on Sunday at the magnificent Khalsa Day parade, and I see some members of our Sikh faith are here, and I reminded people of the fact that a lot of people don't know this. I didn't until I started to visit gurdwaras, that you can go to any gurdwara any day of any week during any year and receive a meal if you're hungry. And it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what faith you are, it doesn't matter what time it is. There are things like that that I don't think we know about each other yet, even here, where we pride ourselves on learning about each other and getting along. But I think a gathering like this is going to be not only good, I hope, for all the delegates, all the people who attend from around the world. I hope it's going to be good for us, because it will reinforce, I hope, that need for us all to learn about each other, to understand what I believe to be the case. And I probably go to church, as it were, to go to a religious institution as often as anybody else in this room, because I get invited, thank goodness, to go to the gurdwaras and the synagogues and the temples and the mosques and the churches. And what you come to realize when you go to all those places is that actually the foundational values of all of these faiths are very, very similar. And that that should mean that when it comes to building the kind of society, whether it's here in Canada or here in Toronto or anywhere else in the world, that we can bring people together united by a common set of values that underlie their faith. But we've had difficulty around the world doing that, maybe greater success here. But I think that an event like this will help us to remind ourselves of how important that is to us here, but also to the world. We have a lot of work to do here, stamping out where it exists still, intolerance and discrimination and injustice. And that is another reason why I think it's so important for us to have this gathering here, because it will remind us of the fact that as hard as you try, and as successful as you might be, there are still parts of the human condition that cause people to think this way and behave this way from time to time. And so I was from the minute that I was approached. I think Zol may have been the first person that mentioned it to me maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Councillor Mihevc has been a great believer in this. We met with the group from the Parliament of the World's Religions to sort of try and sell them on Toronto. We obviously they decided to come here in spite of us. But the bottom line is we're proud, we're happy, we're excited about the fact that this great gathering, this great global gathering, is going to happen here in the city of Toronto. And without being presumptuous, I can think of no more appropriate place for it to be held. And I know we're up to it, and I know that everybody will come away, us and all the people who come from somewhere else, enriched by the experience and more committed than ever to this goal of interfaith cooperation, as opposed to trying to figure out what separates us. It's really what brings us together. So thank you very much for having the confidence in Toronto. We'll show everybody a good and productive time here, and we appreciate very much the confidence you've placed in us. Thank you.